Hello everyone. I'm Ashley. I'm an ISTJ according to MBTI testing. And I won't lie, this is a little rattling for me. I'm not used to talking about myself to nobody right now. I've come across a lot of people that have asked questions about ISTJs because apparently there aren't many out there online because we're always working. So I've decided to do this ISTJ Ask Me Anything, and I'll try and answer your questions. And hopefully, you can get some answers to understand more and more about people like me. Um, I'm big into Facebook because it helps me express myself where I have trouble doing it more so in the real life. I'm part of Type Front and NF Geeks, and I've gotten quite a few questions on Type Front, so I'm going to answer a few. Most of the questions that I'm going to be answering today are from Kate and Jennifer, and I guess I'm going to answer the ones that they've talked about first because it might give you a little more insight about me and how people feel about me. So, I was asked about what my favorite subjects were in school, and well, I guess like most ISTJs, we love facts and anything that will tell us what is happening and why it happened. And it's just facts make sense to me. So I really loved sciences and I loved math. And I didn't really like history up until college level because my family was a pretty good family when it came to traveling. And for some reason, every time we would go on a family vacation in the summer, we learned about that place the following school year. And the teacher hated when I would correct her because I would go somewhere and I'd say, hey, did you know that the Biltmore had the very first in-ground heated swimming pool? Oh, no, it didn't. So I didn't have a good impression in school with history up until college level, where the professor was very open about hearing what I had to say because I had been there, and when I hear a fact, it tends to stick with me. Sciences I was really good in. I loved being able to take a problem and go through all the theories and experiments to find the solution when there was a set task that you could do to get a solution to anything. In high school, I remember I was such a nerd. I really was. I'm shaking, I'm sorry. I got so involved with physics, and the teacher was noticing this. So he told me that I should broaden my mind and try and step up some. So about halfway into the school year, I started a physics club. And we didn't have a huge turnout. We had about 5 or 6 people actually. But the fun that we had making things and learning from the things that we did just from, I don't really know how to explain it. It was just learning in factual ways was really fun for me. I never took art because I thought it was stupid that a teacher could grade you on what you saw as art. And I'm a pretty artistic person myself, and if you tell me that it sucks, I'm sorry, that's probably going to get you into a lot of trouble because I don't do well with, yeah, let's just leave it at that. I don't do well with people telling me something's horrible when I really like it. I can If you're on Facebook, you could probably see some of my artwork. I do post a lot of it. Most people tell me it's really awesome and they're jealous of my talent, but I don't use it as a way to say, hey, this is what I do. It's just something I do as a hobby for fun. It's not a particular I guess, thing to work on. I would never see it as a job. It's pretty much useless to me. I just do it when I get bored and need something to do. I was a band nerd as well. Notes made sense, music made sense. I loved the sciences and the maths, history in college, and things like that. That there was no wrong answer if the answer was right, because 2 and 2 is always 4. Whereas if I draw a circle, it could be wrong because part of the roundness could actually be a line. So I hope that makes sense. Some of my hobbies and favorite pastimes, I love to watch TV. Most of the shows that I watch are factually given. I love medical shows where you see the human anatomy and things like that. I love to watch TV game shows to test my knowledge of what I see versus what other people see. And while I'm not always great at things like Jeopardy, I can't think fast. If you show me a Wheel of Fortune puzzle, sure, I've got a bit of time to look at it and solve it. But Jeopardy's too fast. Even if I know the answer, I second guess myself. I'm like, it may not be right or wrong. So, I love to play Xbox and other gaming systems. Like I said, I like to draw as a hobby. I crochet and things like that. I have a quilt that I've been working on since I was like 14. It's still only about like that big, but I'm usually doing something else, so I don't get around to it often. I love to get on the computer and do social media because it helps me get more extroverted, I guess. As an ISTJ, we don't tend to do a lot of things in the real world because we like to think about what we do, we like to think about what we say, and if I just get out and do it, it really makes me nervous. Like I said, this is making me nervous. I love to bowl. Bowling gives me seconds to think about where the ball is going to go and where it should hit and things like that. Projects, I'm huge on projects. I usually make a list of things I want to do in a day. So I have a little list and I'll check them off while I do them. And I'm never doing the same thing for more than like an hour or two. I tend to get bored, so I go to something else. I like reading. This is a really good example. I'm currently reading 6 different books, and I haven't made it that far in any of them yet because it's so many. But I could tell you exactly where I'm at in each book. I don't tend to mix them up or anything like that. I know what has happened in each one. I know who the characters are in each one, and I guess the sensing side of me, I tend to feel for the characters because I can tell what they're going through and things like that. So I really get into books. It makes me experience things that I don't tend to really experience. So I guess that answers the next question of, am I good at memorizing things? I have a great memory when it comes to things that matter. I can remember things that I read, and you could probably show me a picture of a dissected frog without the labels, and I could pretty much tell you what it was just because I remember doing it in college. The way that I help teach myself to remember things, I either will color code them, and I can remember that a color goes to a certain answer, or if I've been somewhere like the Biltmore and I'm told something, that tends to stick with me. If I have to learn certain characteristics about something, I like to do little mottos or sing a little jingle with it. Um, I used to do plant identification in FFA, and I loved the class because I was a country girl, but the class itself was just horrible. It really was. I had to look at a plant and learn the characteristics of it and be able to identify it. Well, when you go to competitions, they tend to make things a little harder. So I remember this one plant, one of the easiest ones you could ever know, and it's usually about a foot to 3 feet tall, depending on the stage. And they took the maturity out of it. They clipped it down to like that tall, and all you had to look at were the roots and the base structure. And you get a minute per plant. And boy, it was difficult. I remember going over the 50 plants that we had to learn, and some of them you just knew wasn't the answer, and you really had to get down into it. And for some reason, I don't remember why, there was one day that we were looking at the bases of plants and it clicked. So I guess the photographic part of the memory worked really well. I can remember a lot of things, but if you ever hand me something and say, "Hey, can you set this down in my office?" I'll walk away with it in hand. I'll get to your office, and you may have said set it on the second shelf of the bookcase. Well, by the time I've reached your office, I've been thinking about so many other things that I've completely forgotten where you said. So I'll actually come back and I'll say, "Where did you want these again?" I'm not sure what you said. And they're like, "Oh, I wanted it on the second shelf." So after hearing a second or sometimes even a third time, I can actually remember. I'm really bad about setting my keys down and completely losing them. If it weren't for my husband, I would probably have to find some kind of an alarm to put on my keys just to find them. So now it's a step where I have completely taken my ISTJ organization to a point that I have a set place that I have to put my keys as soon as I walk in. I cannot set them down by the door. They have to go to a certain shelf. Things that I remember the easiest are things that I'm most proud about, things that I care about. If it's something that I'm not really fond of, I tend to just let it go in one ear and out the other. I guess I prioritize what I want to know versus what I should know. So remembering things, while it's great, if I overfill my head, I go to bed at night going, "Oh my gosh, what was this? Why did I learn that?" And then I have a really hard time falling asleep. I think a lot before I go to bed. It's very interesting. The next question was if feelings figure into my decision making often. And I don't really understand my feelings. I get very emotional and I don't understand it whatsoever. I know that I can use my feelings to manipulate people. So while I'm not great at expressing them or understand why I express them, I can make myself cry and stuff like that on a whim. If a friend comes to me and says, "Oh my God, my dad died," and I don't know what to do, I'll be like, "Okay, my dad died too. I'm sorry for your loss. My dad hurt me. I'm sure yours hurts you, but sorry, I don't know how to sympathize and console you because it's not who I am. I'm pretty cold, so most of my feelings they don't tend to do a lot of my decisions for me. Everything's pretty logical. If you come to me and you say, oh my God, I really want to go on vacation, but I've got a 2-year-old at home and I'm divorced and all this. It's simple. Either take your kid with you or don't go. That's all there is to it. There's no feeling of, oh, I feel like you really should need to go, but your kid is kind of, they're important. Hello. You have to use your brain. You can't just say, oh, I really want you to do this. Here, let me help you. I don't help many people. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I help people that I care about. I care about people that I love, and I love people that are close to me. So if what basically boils down to, if you're not close to me, it's pretty hard for me to want to help you and get my feelings involved. The next question was, am I good at organizing and do I find it fun? Organization is, I wouldn't necessarily call it fun, it's a habit. I love to organize things based on height, width, color, shades of color, stuff like that. If you opened up my closet, you would see all of my cargo shorts in one spot, all of my athletic shorts in another spot. All my shirts they start at spaghetti strap, tank top, sleeveless, t-shirts, button-down shirts, dress shirts, and then I've got all of my character shirts. I then separate those by color using the rainbow. I do white, gray, black, brown, and then red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and any colors that are in between, like pink, I would put it between the white, gray, black, and the red because it's a form of white and red, so it would be pink and then red. So my shirts are also organized into everyday shirts versus shirts for my Mini Cooper events versus my Harry Potter shirts and things like that. So it's a uniquely done closet, and I like to think of my closet as a fun space to go to because it defines who I am. The next question was, what kind of music do I listen to? I like pretty much every type of music. I'm very eclectic. The only types of music that I can't handle, mostly because I can't understand what they're saying, are the rap musics and heavy metals and R&B. If you're not talking or singing in a way that I can understand you, it's not music, it's noise. And I don't do so well with noise. I like a nice quiet area with music playing. So if I just hear screaming, it tends to drown out my thoughts, and I tend to like hearing what I'm trying to think so that I can make up sentences and form a conversation in my head before I'm going to say anything to anybody. So the next question is a little more difficult. How do you get close to an ISTJ? ISTJs love to be alone. We think about what we're doing, we think about what we're saying, and if we're hanging around with people, we can't do the thinking that we need to do. So it's nice for us to have our own little space. So if you want to get to know an ISTJ, it's very helpful for you to give us our space. But when you come into contact with us, don't treat us like we're not there. Example of what I mean when I went to college, I made a friend. It took, I would say, a week, 2 weeks before we were actually talking in such a way that it would be friends. Um, I met him in band class. I told you I was a nerd. Um, this guy, his name was Sean. He was a pretty good guy, and he was not quite so introverted. He had other friends and stuff like that. And he approached me one day and he's like, "Hi, my name is Sean. I play the saxophone," and all this small talk that didn't mean anything to me. I was like, "Great, you play the saxophone. That's a great fact. Now I know who your name is, what your name is. I know who you are. I know a little bit more about you." And I think he could tell I was a little uncomfortable just having someone walk up to me randomly and just start talking. So he left me alone for a little while. Well, when you're in band, you tend to have to hang around these people more than you realize. So Sean and I, it was nothing major. He would walk up at the start of each class. We tended to keep our instruments in the same area, so when we would go pull them out, it would be like, "Hey Sean, how was your day?" "Oh, it was great. How was yours?" "It was pretty good." And it that was all it was for a week. And after the week, we would start talking about other things, and we we didn't do so much as small talk. We did a lot of, "So tell me something about you, and I'll tell you something about me." And when we started to feel that we could talk to one another without it just having to be facts, it got a little bit closer. Um, Other examples, I've had this friend since I was 10, 11-ish. I've never met her. She's online. Um, I was big and still am pretty big into Harry Potter, and I joined this Harry Potter chat room. And as an ISTJ, I can talk in a chat room for hours, but you put me on a phone and I'm dead silent. So we got to talking in this chat room, and I don't know how it completely started, but she made me feel like she was a good natured person. And as an ISTJ, we tend to think about who you are. And if we get a vibe about you that in any way makes us feel that you could be overpowering or manipulative or hateful or something like that, we see it pretty quick. And I didn't see any of that in her. And her and I have been friends since then. And it's one of the best friendships I've ever had. Um, we've gone a year without talking, and when we did finally talk again, it was like we never left off. Um, she has this very sweet-natured personality, and I think she comes across as this at time girl, now woman. She comes across as this woman that has a lot of similarities to me. So I understand what she's going through, and she understands what I'm going through. So we can talk about anything and everything. We talk about our husbands, we talk about family, we talk about the people that annoy us to no end. And the level headedness that I get from her, it just makes me feel like I don't have to do as much thinking around her. I know she's true to who she's trying to be. She's not one of those people faking of, "Oh, you're a new person. Maybe I should try and get to know you a little better." I like someone who's true to themselves. I like someone that isn't going to try and push their way into my life when I don't want it. As an ISTJ, also, it's very hard for us to want to hang around with an extroverted person that expresses their feelings a lot. Um, don't get me wrong, we love extroverted people because that's how we get rid of our excess energy. Um, when I'm at work here, we have a lot of extroverted people, and I can get into a conversation and I listen. I listen to what people are saying and I hear what they're saying, but in my brain, I'm hearing things that I don't know how to explain it. It's like listening to a record player. You can hear what's being said, but you can also hear the glitches where someone is trying to make something up. Like the record player, it skips a beat, it's trying to put something there that's not there. And when a person is trying to give you some information and they really have no idea what they're talking about, I can't help but interject and say, hey, maybe you should actually look that up because that's just complete BS. And then the debate starts, and I'm a huge debater. I love debating. I don't typically lose in debates because ISTJs were never wrong. You can try and force it down our throats. We are never wrong. And when I say we're never wrong, sometimes we're never wrong. Um, if you get to the point where you're friends with an ISTJ and you think that they've said something that you know isn't true, don't tell them they're wrong. We don't take it lightly, and it will drive a rift between you and your friend. Instead, pose what you're saying as what they're saying in a question. Example, because that didn't really make too much sense. There was a TV show on not long ago called Who Done It, and one of the murder mysteries that they had to solve involved a milk snake, which is like a coral snake, except the coral snake is red touches yellow, he killed a fellow, and a milk snake is red touched black, he's a friend of Jack. And when they dumped this saddleback, this milk snake fell out of it. Well, everybody was like, oh my god, that's a coral snake. And this one person knew for a fact it was a milk snake. And she explained to people, she's like, no, when red touches black, he's a friend of Jack, and this snake is red touching black, so it's a friendly snake. Well, because she's more introverted, she didn't quite see the need to push to people who are much more extroverted and forcing thoughts upon her, that she backed down and said, hey, maybe I'm wrong and they're right. She wasn't an ISTJ, she was just very introverted and didn't want to cause a ruckus. But if she had been an ISTJ, the people shouldn't have treated her that way. It should have been more like, are you sure it's a milk snake? It could have been a coral snake. How do you know for sure that this is that? Well, if it had been my case, I grew up in Texas, and we had coral snakes, and we had milk snakes. And if you didn't know the difference between them, you wound up in the ER. So if someone says something to you, and the ISTJ says in the response an answer that is wrong, just ask them the same question using what they said to you. Like, what's a good example? A MacBook is better than a Windows because it doesn't get viruses. Well, an ISTJ might believe that because there's fewer viruses in the MacBook world, but they do get viruses. And so if you're a Windows lover and you know for a fact that Macs get viruses, you don't want to say, no, you're wrong. You would want to say something more like, so do you really think that MacBooks don't get viruses like Windows computers? Because I did read a story that, and then explain your answer. And the ISTJ will think about it. They will go look it up and see if it is true, and they will acknowledge that they're wrong, but they won't say it. They'll either give you a nod, or they'll shut up, or something along the lines of saying, hey, maybe I was wrong, but I can't let them know that I know I was wrong because I'm never wrong. ISTJs love loyal people. We want people that love us for who we are and care about what we do. If you want to get close to an ISTJ, be yourself. Um, if you're yourself and we don't like you, we'll let you know what we don't like about you. And if that's something that you can handle and you can put up with and try to change, you'll have a friend for life. I have never met someone that I've said, hey, you know what, I don't like when you do this. And usually when I say I don't like something and someone's like, wow, well, she's truthful, it hurt a little bit, but it's truthful. Maybe other people don't like it too. And people that have changed that little aspect about themselves have become more, they've become more of a people person for someone like me. Example, my husband, he probably wouldn't want to say too much about him, but my husband loves to call me names, little nicknames, and they're absolutely horrible. But for him, it's a term of endearment. It's his way of showing that he loves me and he cares. But he's given me a couple that are just mind-boggling and illogical, and they anger me. They really do. It's frustrating because I don't want a name that doesn't represent who I am. So I sat down with him one time. I was like, listen, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like what you're calling me. You gotta stop. And he still gives me nicknames, but he now finds more comical nicknames and things that I can handle because while I may not like the reference, it is true. One of the nicknames he's given me, it's pretty embarrassing, but I'll say it anyway. People fart. I don't care who you are, you fart. And I'm a big farter. It's pretty embarrassing, but it's true. And the nickname he's given me is Farty Pants Mac Boom Boom Bottoms. And it's hilarious. I absolutely hate it, but it's hilarious. So it actually makes me laugh. So whenever I'm in a very serious mode, we get into very serious modes, and whenever I get angry or sad or it just completely distant, and I don't know how to change how to feel because I think about the emotion, trying to figure out why I'm feeling the way I am. He'll sit up and he'll just go, hey, Farty Pants McBoom Boom Bottoms, let's go watch a movie. And hearing it in such a way that it's loving, it makes me laugh. So that's a little more about ISTJs and what you can do to get them to like you, and a little more about us. And know that we're very busybodies. We love to work. We love to keep our minds open. We love to keep our hands busy. And if we're not doing something, we're wasting our time. and we're not big on wasting our time, so we work. We can't do anything but work. It's driven in us. In fact, making this video, I feel like I've wasted 30 minutes of my life, but I also feel that making the video is helping other people understand who we are. So I've actually gotten much less nervous. I'm not shaking anymore. So this is, while it's helping you understand people like me, it's helping me understand and not be so judgmental. Um, so yeah, I guess that's all there is to say at the point. Just understand that ISTJs are very, very introverted, and don't take it the wrong way. When we don't respond to a question immediately, we're sensing what or how you're feeling about it, and then we're thinking about what to say and how to react to what you're saying. Sometimes we don't care about the consequences because we've thought it through in our head, and maybe we might be thinking, well, if I say this, maybe they'll leave me alone, versus, well, if I say it this way, maybe they'll just say okay and still bug me. And sometimes we'll say something just to get you to leave us alone because we need our space. We really do. And I guess that's all I can say. If there's something I might have missed, ask me another question and I'll answer you again. So thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.